Nikita said a few times that no, the fleet will stay. It just needs to be revised, in my opinion. There's a few things that they can do, I think, that would immediately sort of have a positive. It wouldn't fix the economy. It's like a mammoth task, isn't it? There's so many factors. But stuff like read-only secure containers and tweaks to the fleet. I like the idea of a civilian flea market. I know there's issues with it, but those two things, it's like we're in a beta. Should we try them? Maybe.
Yeah, just don't set church off about secure containers. We're only 3 minutes in. You know, it's try and keep that one under wraps until a bit later on. I'm getting a bit nervous.
It's getting hot in here, guys.
Yeah,
oh my goodness. Welcome to ScavTalk, an Escape from Tarkov podcast with a focus on the continued development of the game, patch note analysis, theory crafting, and general gameplay discussions. My name is Church. I'm one of your hosts. I do content creation, video editing, and general live streaming.
And I'm GigaBeef, a YouTuber helping you guys get better at the game. And today we are joined by another community member, Gazabyte, who's an upcoming content creator who we've invited on today for our guest speaker, I suppose you could call him.
Speaker.
So yeah, exactly. I'm sure you've got a lot of things to say and to tell us. So welcome, Gazabyte.
Thank you. I've got a lot of things to speak about. Yes, indeed. I think I represent a little bit more of the maybe slightly more hardcore side of the thing. I'd like to see things scaled back. So, but also I'm very noob friendly with my beginner guides and stuff on YouTube. So that's kind of what I do, and some opinions and stuff like that. So, hi, thanks for having me.
Excellent.
Yeah.
No
Glad to
worries
have you
at
on.
all. Yeah, it's good. So we've all been playing the wipe, I guess. I guess to begin with, I'll just start with, as we usually do, and ask my my good friend Church how it's been going. How's everything been? How's the last week been for you?
Going good. It's going good. Patch is pretty good. I hit level
Playing a
20
bunch?
the other night. Yeah, I think the other night, like 2 days ago, I was up till about 8 a.m. in the morning, real gamer hours. I was like, I'm gonna get level 20 no matter what. And I got it, and it's interesting. It's definitely interesting, for sure. I'm kind of like sad, but it's also kind of nice at the same time because now I get the mutant, I got the slick armor, I got the Tagilla helmet. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to be steamrolling through customs.
It's pretty good. So yeah, so I guess like you've pushed through to what level are you now then? Are you over level 20 now? Like level
20 or
20 or
21.
something?
I haven't had to play since that. Not yet.
Okay, so you just ticked over. So yeah, I mean it's been going pretty well for me so far. I would say I've enjoyed it a lot. It's been great going back to the old school Tarkov without the flea and stuff. I did like a big push all the way through to where I am now, and I ended up kind of like jumping through a lot of the teams. Got to like level 17, and then I ended up being busy with like other stuff, and with like I wanted to do some video things and stuff like that. So I actually haven't played for like 2 days. And so I got stuck like 3 levels to go before the flea, which is I'm excited about because I'm excited to see what happens. But yeah, it's been great. I've like played a bit of solo, mostly doing questing, and I've actually been playing with people for the first time in a long time. I think I mentioned this before. A couple of guys were getting back into it and stuff, and it's been fun for them as well. Like because when we used to play, none of us had any idea. This is like years ago, and I think it's a lot better when you've got like one person who's like really knows the game in and out. It really does help a lot. So we've been having a good time. It's actually good to see, and I think the lack of flea without people pushing through, it kind of makes it a bit fairer for everybody. It kind of levels the playing field a bit. So
Yeah,
it's been good. So Gaz, how's it been for you then? I mean, I guess you could tell us how it's been, and then we can ask you a few questions about yourself. But yeah, first of all, how's the wipe been so far? What level are you at? Like where you at?
Yeah, I mean it's great so far. It's one of those things, isn't it? It's been great, and it'll probably continue to be great for the next sort of couple of weeks, and then the flea market will be available to those of us who play the game quite actively. And then I have a sneaky suspicion it will fall back into old ways. I'm level 12 at the minute. I haven't had a great deal of time to play, but I've played enough, and I just feel like I'm a god amongst men, which is not. It's not true in this. I think I've got a survival rate of about 45% at the minute. It's not great, but compared to, I made the mistake at the probably about a month from the end of last wipe, resetting my account and going for a more sort of hardcore approach. I made a video about it and then never made another video because I just got busy with other stuff. And then the wipe events came out, and I'm like level 7, and it's all gone to pot. Everything's gone crazy. So yeah, it's been good to have everyone else on that sort of same plane as well.
Yeah, that's good. It's interesting because I think like quite a few people have kind of gone through that a little bit. I know like Airwing was doing a bunch of stuff on hardcore, and he was like he went in it like fully like quite a while before the pre-wipe events and all that kind of stuff. So that was like a bit better. I like tried a couple of like really budgety. I only did it for a small amount on stream because it was like really rough. I know that like Jesse Kazam tried doing like Ironsight's only challenge, and that was also really rough. And so like anybody who's trying to like reset towards the end, like it is really tough. So I totally I totally get that.
Yeah.
But cool. So yeah, before we like delve into any more like actual wipe stuff, I guess yeah, we want to find out a little bit more about you. I mean, what got you into EFT in the first place? I guess is like my two questions, like what you got into the game, like what kind of stuff did you play before, and like how did you actually get here? And then secondly, kind of what made you want to like start becoming like trying to become a content creator and putting stuff out on YouTube and that kind of thing. I think those are the two questions that I have to kind of frame it and introduce you to everybody.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys. There's another podcast. It's quite a big one. Painkiller already. Back from the Call of Duty days, because I used to play a lot of Call of Duty. And one of the guys on there just, I want to say banging on about it, but every time it came up, I'm like, this game just sounds really interesting to me. It just like everything about it sounds like. And when someone says to me, "Don't play this game; it will ruin your life," I'm immediately like, okay, I'm interested. And that I was like, sure. Me and my brother picked it up, and I was like, should we just try this game? It's Escape from Tarkov game. And then within a week after buying it, and it was so fun. I went back with him a few months back and read through our old DMs, and I'm like, did you know that the scav runs, you go in with a random loadout and you get to keep the stuff you come out with? And I'm like, oh, look at me.
The sweet
So
summer
that was
child.
exactly, yeah. So that was January 2020. So I'm not from a time before the flea market. When did the flea market release? About summer 2019, was it, or possibly a
I
bit earlier?
think it was 2018.
Yeah, I
Was
think it
it?
was a little earlier because I think I started in. When did I say I started? I can't remember now. I think it was like May 2019 or something. And
Right.
the fee was already there when I started as well.
Right. Okay.
So it's been it's been in for a while, but yeah, we'll
Yeah,
only.
and the game has evolved a lot with the flea as well. I think a lot of the systems in the game, I can understand the resistance. Or, I mean, Nikita said a few times that no, the flea will stay. It just needs to be revised, in my opinion. There's a few things that they can do, I think, that would immediately sort of have a positive. It wouldn't fix the economy. It's like a mammoth task, isn't it? There's so many factors. There's stuff like read-only secure containers and tweaks to the fleet. I like the idea of a civilian flea market. I know there's issues with it, but those two things, it's like we're in a beta. Should we try them? Maybe.
Yeah, just don't set church off about secure containers. We're only 3 minutes in. Let's try and try and keep that one under wraps until a bit later on. I'm getting a bit nervous.
It's getting hot in here, guys.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
Love it.
Okay, so what made you want to actually start putting out YouTube? Because you say you don't stream, but you do have a YouTube channel, and
Sure,
you've
yeah.
been putting out guide content, that kind of stuff, and watch some of your stuff, and it's good stuff. So just interested
Thank
to see
you.
like it's always interesting to figure out like or understand like why somebody decides to start, because it's such a crazy journey.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I started doing YouTube back in, I don't know when it was, maybe 8 years ago.
Wow.
And one of those, so I had one channel. I used to play a lot of Minecraft, and I still do play quite a bit. I know you've talked about your obsession with Minecraft beef. I'm in the same boat. I think it's a great game. I think it's probably the best game ever, to be honest. It's just infinitely sort of replayable. You can do whatever you want in it. There's something for everyone in it. And I had a channel that got up to maybe 1,000 subscribers, and then for some unknown reason, I decided, nah, get rid of that one. Why? then bear in mind that was 8 years ago, and I
Yeah.
often
Yeah.
think back. It's one of my regrets. I'm like, imagine if
Mm.
I'd have just kept that, even if I'd pivoted, I could still
Sure.
have had, you know, a channel doing, you know, with you know, just for the natural growth. I mean, over the past few months, I've seen a lot of growth on my channel, even when I haven't necessarily been posting. You know, I'll come back in and I'm like, oh, you know, there's a few notifications today. Haven't posted anything for 3 weeks. So yeah, then a couple of other channels. The name Gazabyte was, I ran a website briefly, Gazabyte.com, and it was tech and gaming,
Oh, cool.
and there was a
That's
YouTube
cool.
channel along with it, and I decided that as much as I loved like the writing, it was just consuming my time. I, it's all I did. My girlfriend wasn't happy. So I sort of pivoted into YouTube because I'm like, well, I've done YouTube before. You know, I've had a couple of different channels. I know the basic editing process. So let's try this. So I was doing some tech stuff on there, and Destiny has been the greatest time sink of my life.
Uh-huh.
I played it since before launch, since the beta of that, and it's just yeah. So I was like, right, Beyond Light, the new expansion came out. Let's do it. Let's just start a YouTube channel. And I did it, and I'm like, man, I'm really not into this. Let's get back into Tarkov. And I'd taken a break, a few month break from it, and I was like, you know, I think Escape from Tarkov is infinitely more. It's kind of more niche, but it's a game that like I love so much that, and I think I had a lot to sort of, even as a player who's not like super Chad, I can definitely give the basic tips to help people get, you know, just see those little small percentage increases in their survival rate and that stuff like that. So I started the channel I started the channel about this time last year, but I started doing Tarkov content in halfway through January, I think.
Okay.
So
All
about
right. Cool.
6 months.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it's funny. Like Tarkov's such a great game, I feel, for content creation in so many ways, right? Like it's really, really tough. It's got an insane learning curve. So people are always looking for stuff,
Yeah.
and you know, tips and like ways to get better and that kind of thing. People like the game, but they don't always want to play it. So that's what makes it quite good for streaming too, because like people will come and watch
Sure.
it because they enjoy the game, but they don't like actually the active playing of Tarkov is pretty stressful, right? And so
Yeah.
to be able to then watch somebody else, you can still enjoy and you know appreciate the game for what it is, without having to you know have every muscle in your body clenched for like 3 hours straight.
And you
Which is
experience the moments with them as well. When they kill
yeah,
that 4-man squad, you're like, oh wow, you know, it's you kind of experience the moments with them, and it's
exactly,
someone to hang out with. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I
exactly,
think
and
yeah,
I think like it's also good. It's, especially YouTube is really decent for kind of like yeah, as you said, players who aren't, you know, Shift W Chads, you know, headshotting everybody like Call of Duty or PUBG pros as well. Because I've actually had some people like mention on my channel as well that you know sometimes I can be a bit more relatable than people who've got like you know super aim and all this kind of stuff because they can pull off things that their skill allows them to. Whereas like I can't do that, so I have to you know I have to be like either efficient with my kits or like use the right stuff or like pick my spot and that kind of thing. So it's like
absolutely.
it's a bit more kind of realistic, I think, for a lot of people. So you know, there's definitely
Careful with that
some
word.
value in that. Yeah, definitely have to be careful with that for sure, for sure. All right, cool. Well, that's awesome, and yeah, thanks for coming on the show. So, in terms of what has been going on, I mean, I don't know, Church, if there's anything you wanted to talk about in particular, but I think like I've been kind of keeping an eye out on what's been going on in the community and seeing like the biggest topics.
Okay.
And I think durability of weapons and jams has probably been the one that's kind of been like all. It's actually like cooled down a little over the past couple of days, but it's like the thing that I really wanted to speak about to begin with because it's like one of the biggest topics that people are complaining about people getting jams on like you know full durability M4s and MP5s and all this kind of stuff. So like. I guess I'll just throw it out there. Like, what's your experience so far with durability? I guess this one, the church to begin with, and like, how do you feel about it? What do you think should be changed, and or do you think it's fine as is?
I mean, last time we spoke, I said I didn't have a jam, and then since I've been playing a lot more, I've had like maybe 3 or 4 jams. And the first one I got, there was a guy moving about and making a bunch of noises. So I lined up the shot and I shot him in the head, and ping, he died, but then immediately my gun jammed, and there was still more noises. It was probably like a 3-man in custom, so I just like had to run. I was like, I don't know what to do. I just reloaded and run, and apparently you can just reload and it will also clear the jam on most guns. I think I saw, but and then the other time that it happened, it was really frustrating because I went to line up the shot, and I shot, and my first bullet missed, and the rest of my my gun jammed. So my only option is to run. You really can't do anything per se, and it's frustrating because I feel like I don't have any control over it, and it's like my guns, the only guns I don't use scav guns. I use brand new guns like from traders. So I just like I would love to see the code and like the percentages, because I almost feel like 100% durability gun just shouldn't jam, and then maybe when it's at 90%, maybe it's like a 0.00001, and then it starts scaling more and more aggressively as it goes down the scale. If you know what I mean, like it's more of a curve, because it just like it's just like part of me is like, okay, this makes sense for Tarkov and like Nikita's vision. Like sometimes, no matter what, you just lose. Like I think Nikita said that. This is like real war. It's like people just die. You know what I mean? It's just the reality of it.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants to sort of like emulate that experience. But like the gamer, the gamer within me is just like, what? This is just like I can't. I'm just at the mercy of RNG basically, and it's like, and from like those experiences, it's like it's bad RNG because it seems like it's 0.1%, or maybe it's like 0.5% at like 100 durability. Like I don't know. It's just it doesn't feel good. It really does not feel good, because now it's like, what's the point in even using a high durability gun if it's gonna jam on the first shot? You know what I mean? It's just like what. That just feels really awful. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, okay, so I said before, right, I haven't had any jams. I have had one single jam so far, and that was, and I'm not mag dumping on full auto, right? Like, I don't have the weapons for it, and I tend to use the bigger calibers anyway, and so it makes me more sort of semi-auto focused, even with things like the AKM. But I've had one jam, and that was on a scav run, and that was with a shotgun. It was the only jam I've had, and a guy came around, it was a PMC, came around the corner, I knew he was a PMC, and it went click, and then I died. And that was basically it. So it's the only jam that I've had, which is weird because I have seen lots of people complaining about it. And I think last time when I looked at shot, guys said I'm doing a lot of questing. Honestly, I'm not doing that much fighting. I have to say. And I think I'd fired last time I looked was like 500 rounds or something, and then I've played like a whole bunch of stuff after that. So I probably fired like 1,000 rounds or something by now, and had like this one shell jam this one time. But either way, right? Seeing what people have said in the community about, the durability of guns and the jam frequency, I'm 100% in agreement with you that pretty much everything above like 95% shouldn't jam at all. Like I don't, whether that's realistic or not, like I don't really care, but it's stupid because as you say, right, there's lots of stuff that we talk about. There's like realism, and then there's the game, and it doesn't have to be realistic necessarily for it to be immersive, right? This is the conversation that we're always having. Yeah, exactly. It's a balance between realism and immersion, and it's like an immersive experience is more important than a realistic experience, because a realistic experience means you have to buy another copy of the game if you died, right? Which is obviously stupid,
right?
And so what I like is choices. I'm always talking about choices, right? And video games are great when you have choices. And so you have the choice to go in with a scav gun that you don't repair. It's very, very cheap. And, there's also all sorts of problems with it, and you run the risk of jamming, versus buying an expensive gun from the traders and having it not jam. Or if you're then going to use it a lot and not replace it, it's like, well, how long do I keep it before I go and replace it with 100% one? And really, like that, you should be able to know that if you replace your gun like every raid, for example, then you're never going to get a jam. I think that should be a thing, right? And it's like that would be really expensive to do.
Yes.
But you can make that choice if you want. Whereas now it's like you make that choice and then it jams anyway, and you think, well, that could just kind of sucks. Yeah, and it's like even if it's like a small probability, sometimes it's the important one, as you say. Right, if you fire one shot and then you jam, like that's the absolute worst. Like if you jam on the very first shot, then sometimes they don't even know that you tried to fire at them, right? Whereas like the second shot is like, oh god. So
that's the thing. I just want to comment quickly. You mentioned about you don't full auto a lot. Both of my like detrimental jams was after I fired a single bullet, it jammed. So I don't even know if like, and I did some testing in a video where I took a PP19 and a silencer just because it increased the durability burn. And I shot like, I went offline, I shot like, 8 or so mags and I didn't get a jam. And it only burned like 4% durability or something. Like it just, so it's like, I don't know. Just, yeah, like you said,
How long are they expecting us to keep these guns? If that only
that's the other
only
thing
takes
too.
4%, guns are lost. Every other raid. I feel like there's got to be a little bit more. There's something. Then obviously this is all going to be tweaked, isn't it? I think
Sure.
the idea of the top 5% you should never get a jam is good, and I think it also is a money sink because these players are always going to make sure that they're constantly buying the new weapons to make sure they eliminate that fractional probability that it jams.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
turns into a money sink. It helps the economy because they're always buying a new gun, and that money is whether it goes traders or FleaMarket, and a bit of it goes for tax, that sort of thing. It kind of constant cycling will help. Yeah, it's funny you say about either the second bullet jamming. That's my exact experience. I had a jam on like raid number 7 or something I did, and it was a
Mhm.
PP19, brand new, fresh one. Fired a shot, and or maybe it wasn't the second bullet. It was definitely the second burst, but it was a short first burst, maybe 2 or 3 bullets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I aim at him, gun jams. I remember that gun jamming was a mechanic added in the patch, and then I'm like, oh, I didn't look at the keybind. Fortunately, it does prompt you left shift and T, which is what does that do normally? It checks the chamber, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I never check the chamber, so it's never been
Yeah.
a button combination I've used. So it was a bit like,
Yeah.
and I'm just sat there. But other than that, it's not happened to me at all. And I have used some slightly lower durability weapons. I love the AK, the actual full AK-74, 74MN. So if I've got a scav that has it, I'm like, I'll take that risk of a misfire just because I love the platform. So,
Mhm.
and I haven't really seen any issues with, and that goes for my scav runs as well. Um, you know, but again, I don't really mag dump. I've learned to do it more because it's, it can be the best way to win a fight, unfortunately, even at medium range. But yeah, I don't really have. I think there's a lot of vocal minority on this one where people get it and they complain, and then for every person that gets it, there's 1,000 people that haven't had a jam yet who just they're not going to go, oh yeah, I haven't had a jam. I think it's just a lot of people going, oh yeah, I had a jam that one time.
Yeah, I think that's right. Like, there's a huge amount of kind of selection bias there, right? The people complaining about it when they see it, and everyone else just kind of playing the game as normal and not thinking about it because it's not. Yeah, as you say, right? You kind of forget. Like, I forget that it's even a mechanic, honestly, at the moment because I've only ever had that one jam as a scav, and that was it. So it's it's going to be a nasty shock when I get into a proper fight and I'm using one, but. Yeah, as I said, like I'm just not firing a great deal. Like this tends to be a lot of my early wipe gameplay, and that's also why, in some ways, I'm like, I was saying just beforehand that I basically haven't streamed this new wipe at all, and so tomorrow's gonna be like my first stream on the new wipe, and it feels kind of weird. Like I've been away for for ages. But at the same time, I also kind of don't feel bad about it because like going from level 17 to 20 is actually probably going to be more interesting than watching me get to level 17 in the first place, where I just do quest after quest after quest after quest after quest, and then play scav and do jacket run after jacket run after jacket run after jacket run. So, in some ways, that's going to be, I think it's going to be better. But
the issue I'm running into getting background footage for YouTube videos is like no one wants to watch me run and loot a few jackets, grab a quest item, and get out. It's like, there's no
exactly,
action here. There's nothing that like pleasing to the eye, and I'm
exactly.
not too bothered about like how great the gameplay looks. But at least if I don't kill any PMCs, I at least want to kill 4 or 5 scavs and maybe have a bit of a shootout. One of them lobs a grenade, some action of some sort. Which is why the video I did on lockpicking, I'm like, I recorded that one. I mean, it was a good moment anyway. I killed 2 PMCs, and one of them was just like I turned and just point fired, and he just dropped, and I'm like, what? But that was the one with the misfire in it, and I was like, I'll put it in there. It's a new
Yeah,
mechanic. Might as
exactly.
well.
Exactly. Have either of you guys used the scav guns in any serious way with the PSO, for example? That's something that I was doing,
Oh my
and
god.
it is really bad. Like, this is the next stage of the
Yes.
durability that I want to talk about, which is about the
Oh, the
accuracy debuffs.
accuracy.
Some people were
Yes.
talking to me about it, right, on one of the videos that I made, and I was like, yeah, I haven't really noticed, it's, I don't know. And then I ended up like running an AK-74M that was like proper scuffed. I was like, okay, it's fine. Stuck a PSO on it and a suppressor. Oh my goodness, I could not hit anything. It was insane. Like, I've not
Really
really noticed because
inaccurate.
I've only been using red dots, but like, yeah, the inaccuracy is crazy. I was like trying to shoot at scavs at kind of, I think it must have been probably 100 meters, I would say, and it's a nightmare. You're just like guessing. There's just a circle and the bullet might go in there somewhere, and they're like hiding behind a
Yeah.
barricade, and you're just like,
It's
I'm just going to keep
really
pressing the
bad.
button until this guy dies. It's
Yeah.
like it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
It doesn't
I
seem in line with what a gun durability should be either. I mean, I'm not a gun person per se, but from everything I've seen, it's like accuracy isn't that sort of thrown off when a barrel's worn, or it is more about the potential misfires, backfiring, and that sort of thing, not loading rounds properly. That kind of, I don't know if accuracy is as sort of realistic, and whether
Yeah.
it's a gameism.
I mean, I'm not an expert either, but this kind of like, I guess this kind of leads into what is my point around durability, is that I don't think they should have put it in the way it's been implemented, because it's kind of like, it's quite un-BSG like, I think, of the way that they've done it, because it would be okay if each part had durability. And we've actually spoken before on this podcast about having durability on every piece, and I think that would just be better. It wouldn't actually even need to be on every part, but if if you had durability on suppressors, for example, like suppressors and compensators, barrels, and you could have it on lowers still, that's okay. So there is some kind of like, that if the barrel is really screwed, then, and you fire more rounds down it and it gets really screwed, then it ends up being like that. And then, I don't know, maybe you could have it on every part, right? Like, you could have all the stats degrade or something. Like the ergonomics of a low of a pistol grip, for example, like degrades as the durability gets worn down or something. But I think just like, I just feel like the way the system's implemented right now is kind of clumsy. It's just like all on the lower receiver, all on like the base part of the weapon, and it affects everything. It's just the jamming and also the accuracy, and then like suppressors kind of like burn through the durability on the lower more. Like, it's just kind of a bit weird. Like, and this is the thing that I find strange, is that there is a more realistic way to implement this that I feel like makes the gameplay better. And so I'm not sure exactly why they've done it like this. Like, it's kind of a gameism thing, but it also is worse than the like realistic counterpart.
Yeah.
I feel like they went about in the worst way possible from a gameism perspective, because it's like we've said with the durability, it's like I want to blow up the game and I'm scared it's going to crash the stream or something. I want to see how many raids I've played and possibly see how many bullets I fired. I don't know stats for that, but I'm willing to bet it's like let's say I played 100 raids and I've had like one jam within those 100 raids. Let's just say it's like 0.01% jam. It would have been more meaningful and a better, like, as a player, a better decision making process if when I full autoed, it sort of like rapidly scale up, increasing the likelihood of the jam. But if I single tapped, it was like just never gonna jam, at 100%. And it could still have the current system where like the high, because that's something we haven't even talked about, is like the high caliber ammos. They have like I think the Lapua 388 AP has like 170% durability burn to it. So, I mean, we haven't even seen the effects of that, but it seems to me like it's so random that you just pray, you have no control over it. Whereas if they went for more system where it, like, as you full autoed more, it increased, like, multiplicatively increased the likelihood of you getting a jam. And then switching to the accuracy thing, I also killed a guy. He had he was shooting at a player, and he had a SKS of a PSO scope on it. And so I started taking shots at the player, but I wasn't hitting or whatever. I was missing, so I went and ran. Then a scav was shooting me from afar, so I tried to shoot the scav, right? And I was right on him, and every shot was missing, and I was so confused. I was like, I checked the zeroing. Is the zeroing wrong? And I was like, no. I looked at the gun, 60% durability. And he had to have been less than 100 meters, like maybe like 80 meters. and it was like, wow, this is really bad. So it seems that the durability is way more important just for the accuracy than it is for even the chance of it jamming. Because the jamming just seems like a random, like a 2% chance, no matter what the durability is. Like, I don't know. We would have to get a like 1% durability gun and test it and see if it really scales massively upwards. But just the way they went about it was like, let's just make the accuracy worse. So now it's like when you're a scav, they're long distance, just hope you pray to the RNG gods that the bullet goes in the direction, you know. And then it's like when you're playing PMC, just pray to the RNG gods that you don't get a jam. Like it feels really bad.
And there's also issues with red dots currently as well, isn't there? With accuracy, they're not quite firing in the right. Some of the reticles, I think, maybe the Cobra fires like when you've got the red dot on. I think usually it should fire at the red dot or the tip of the triangle. But
well,
I think I know what you're talking about.
This topic is highly controversial.
Well,
just because this, the red dot accuracy has been an issue in the game for a long time for all sorts of various reasons, right? You've got like the vertical FOV change thing. You've got like the zeroing thing. Like there's so many strange issues with red dots in the first place. I'm not entirely certain. So one of the reasons why I ended up going, I mean, this is slightly off topic here, but like this is one of the reasons why I ended up going for the micro dots so much, and why people like the old Pico 6 before they just like smash that into the floor. But anything that's like one of the microdots that you can 0 to 25 meters, you then end up getting like consistent drop off, because there's literally nothing worse. Okay, let me start that again. Right, in games where there is bullet drop, if the round goes below the crosshair, you can deal with that as a human being. That's sensible. Every other game plays like that, right? When you fire fast rounds and the rounds go over the crosshair, everything that you know about FPS is just destroyed, right? It's insane. Like, I don't know whether you guys have ever tried firing like 7N31 out of out of anything, right? Out of like SDM or Saigon 9 or whatever, and it's 50 meter plus zeroing thing, and it's just up they go, it's just insane. Like, I tried using it. It's actually even worse on the MP5 SD because it's got like minus 33% round velocity because of the way it works. And so when it's zeroed then for the PSO rounds and you put like AP63s in it or 7N31, it's just like you have to just aim at their chest to hit them in the head. It's completely crazy. So I don't know. The thing about like optics, it's one of those ones where I've like been wanting to look into it in depth, but it will take me like hours to go through everything, and I've never quite I know all the issues, but I've never quite gone into like all the details of exactly what's wrong with all of them, and it just drives me a bit crazy. So I just kind of like pick the stuff that's I know is usable and is going to work, and then just try to forget about it, which is probably bad, but I do want to do something on it at some point.
I think the accuracy issues compound on themselves, and now we've got another variable that's sort of been introduced with the accuracy. It's like everything is trying to make every weapon less accurate,
which like
and more random. Like
the scav guns, I think it's like I kind of don't mind, right? Like in and of itself as a concept, like the inaccuracy of scav weapons, I think is okay. I do wish that they'd separated these things out, like I said before, into different pieces, but like. I think it's fine. Like if you're going to use scav guns and they're scuffed and they don't work properly, then that's fine. I kind of feel like it's okay. Like maybe the accuracy thing is a little bit overdone because it really is just like it really is insane when you're trying to use them. 50% durability. And what I would like them to do, if it was me, is tone down that a bit. So like it's it's inaccurate, but maybe not as much. I'm not sure if it reflects in the MOA of the stats. I wish it did, if that was the case, because it'd be really nice to know exactly how bad it was, and then to just like ramp up the durability misfire issues with scav guns. I expect my scav gun to be like jamming every like 30 to 60 rounds. If it's at 40 durability, it should be jamming non-stop. Like it should, honestly. I really think it should.
The only one that's jammed with a scav gun out of us in this group?
I've only jammed with one scav shotgun. But I was using the 74M for ages, right? And that was like 45 Dura or something. And I was using it. I've shot at a bunch of guys. I got load of clips of me shooting long range at people. I had fired at this scav because I had to kill them at 100 meters, and it took me, to like a mag and a half or something, and like never jammed at all. I played like 3 or 4 woods raids firing at multiple people with BT out of the scav gun with the PSO on it and the suppressor, and I did not get a single jam. And like that shouldn't. I honestly don't think that should happen. Maybe I got really lucky, maybe, but I think that chance should be like way higher at the bottom end and way lower at the top end to just stop people getting that annoying thing.
I kind of want to do a test now. Like I kind of want to learn offline raid. Just bring like a couch and a bunch of PPSH drum mags and just take a brand new PPSH and just try to. There's got to be a quicker way to do it, but I want to see how it scales. Like towards the end of the durability, is it jamming a lot, or is it still like the same as when it's brand new? So
You
that's
jam
I'm
it right out.
I don't know.
You're on the shooting
Possibly.
range because that'd be
Maybe.
quick.
Yeah. You'd say the same durability there as well, wouldn't you? If you walked out and walked back in, because it wouldn't affect it. So yeah, that'd be
Would
a good
yes,
way
you'd have to
test
stay
it.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if the durability stat is kind of not a false stat, but there's clearly not as much weight to it as we think. You know, I've jammed on probably a 98.5% Dura gun and not jammed with all the scav weapons I've used. Obviously, you know, it depends, doesn't it? But like you say, I
see
think
what
it
you're
should do
saying.
this. It should the scale should
Right.
literally do that. But it doesn't seem to. So I'm interested. I'd be interested to see how closely durability actually ties into the jamming, or whether how much of it is just like a base chance. Because I'm
Yes.
assuming it's like a base chance plus durability modifier. I wonder how much that modifier is for durability.
Yeah, and I wonder if it depends on the gun too. You might imagine that some of the Soviet weapons might jam less potentially than something
Yeah,
like an
AKs can shoot
MDR.
forever. Yeah,
Exactly. There's all the wonderful videos on the internet of people firing drum mags out of AKs that are literally on fire and are
yeah,
struggling to to recock the weapon after the new mag's gone in, and then continue to fire 120 rounds out of an enormous drum magazine, even though they can the mechanism can barely move anymore because the metal's so warped from all the heat. So I don't know. Whereas I think as I said, I'm not a gun guy really, but obviously playing Tarkov, you can't really help it. And I think there was a story that I was told by someone else of the MDR not actually working in real life because there was a bunch of cheap ammo that was used, and it was it's 5.56, but it was cheap ammo, and so it's not machined quite as neatly, and because the MDR is quite a precision machine, it wouldn't actually run through the gun, and so
apparently bullpups are notoriously sort of bad for it. I think that was a dodgy batch of MDRs, if I remember that story correctly. I think they issued replacements to everyone who bought that batch. So not necessarily just them, but I do know that bullpups, as a rule, are less reliable than ones where the magazine's on the front of the trigger.
interesting.
So
Wonder why. Anyway, that's for another time.
I don't know. No
so
idea.
So favorite wipe of the guns. Look, let me try that again. Favorite gun of the wipe so far.
Mutant. Oh my god, it's so broken.
How is it?
I haven't actually used it per se. I tested it in a hideout and I put some light mods on it. Because you can put that Sig Sauer suppressor with the MCX muzzle. It's the one where you can put the muzzle. It's the best for that caliber, I guess, the best suppressor or the lowest recoil rather. It's really good, man. It's just so I think they basically just killed the HK and M4. Maybe definitely the HK. I don't know. I haven't looked at that meta M4, but now it's all about the mutant. It's all about the mutant because it has high ergo. You can get it down to 36 recoil, but that's 39's the balanced one with high ergo, low recoil.
Oh my
and
God.
even it's stock with just the meta suppressor and a Mo butt pad and a grip, it's very good. It's in the 40s, it's 45 or something. I think it shoots a little faster than the normal AKs, I want to say 650 RPM. It's
I think
just
it is 650, yeah. So it's in line with
just,
the 545s.
It's just the meta gun, it's just the new out with the old and with the new. So
it's insane. I haven't had a chance to use it yet, which is a bit sad. I've not really had because I'm not at the flea yet, and I guess you can talk us through some of the stuff on the flea in the set because that'll be kind of interesting. But because I've not been able to be on the flea yet, I can't actually check yet and see what's changed. And the things that I've picked up so far, because I know they said they've rebalanced various mods and whatever, but the things that I've picked up so far have been the same because I have in various Google Sheets, I have tabulated stuff from doing various gun builds and things, so I can check some of the old stats of the way things were. I suppose I could look on the wiki in theory and go and check some of these things, but I don't know exactly what's changed yet, so it's going to be interesting seeing kind of how this rejigs everything. Whether they've like touched the 103 as well, on that lot, because I know those were 66 previously, and then you could get them into like the high 50s. So I don't know whether anything's changed with those. But are you saying like have you tried building some M4s and like the old way? Are they just like nowhere near the same?
What I've seen some screenshots from other like Terrorax, so if I'm saying his name right, he showed some screenshots of like the old meta HK build, and it was just like off like 30 ergonomics, like 39 recoil. It was like really bad stats. And even the SA58 now has like the old meta build with like the 30 rounders and the Mo stock and the Dranalytic, all that fancy meta stuff. It's like 10 ergo and 77 recoil. Like they tanked the ergo. So I don't. It clearly seems to me like it's gonna be maybe the 308 MDR will be around still, but definitely the mutants. Just like that's all. It just seems like the clear meta gun. So get your skier level 3, and that's the other thing because I got mine off the flea, right? And so from the flea, they're found on raiders, most commonly. But they have 80% durability. They're not brand new.
Yeah.
They're not a scav gun. They're a raider gun. So that's kind of interesting. I think I'm
not sure on that one. I feel like Raiders guns should be 100. I don't.
I kind of feel the same, but I really want to test the durability thing because here's the thing: we're all kind of assuming the durability is tied. Sorry, the weapon jamming is tied to the durability stat. What if we're wrong about that? What if it's not even tied? It's just like a flat 2% chance, no matter what. You know what I mean? It's just like its own separate thing.
I wouldn't be surprised, or to see that, like I said, the base of it is like it's a whatever 0.01 base.
That could be it as well.
The durability is just like just sort of edges it up slightly. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do some testing for sure.
It's good. It is interesting. Yeah, I mean, so briefly for me so far, I mean, really like as usual with this wipe, and I was talking before, I did a video before the wipe about stuff to do and things that I thought might be good. And last wipe I used the MP5 at the start and it was amazing. This wipe, it seems like everyone's running level 4. I don't know what the deal is, but like everyone got a load of level 4 at the start. Like anyone who's playing EOD got like troopers. There's like level 4 all over various scavs. I feel like half the people I run into are wearing level 4 and half are wearing level 3. And that really negates a lot of the 9mm stuff already. I was like, oh, that's kind of upsetting, especially going like full auto and because there's a difference, right, between trying to tap people versus like running in and just like full autoing thorax, which is kind of what I like to do because it is easier and you kill people like that. And so for me, it's like really become a combination of like SKS if you want to use the PSO or Vepr. And this is like before flea, right? So you use like the 136 Vepr with 762 on semi-auto, and you can turn it into an AK in the hideout if you have workbench level 1. These two guns for me seem to be like the staple, except for my new favorite, which I'm not really a pistols guy particularly, but guys, I've been running the M9 on factory because I had to do stir up. It is, honestly, I've never really used the M9 before. It's super weird and it has been insane. I did stir up in the very first raid in one go, killing 3 people. I finished Peacekeepers, like Friend from the West thing, like part 2. Did that all on factory with the M9. I don't know what's happened. Something weird has happened to me, and I'm just running around head tapping people with the M9. It's insane. I'm loving it.
I can't get on with the M9. I can't get on with it. I just no. The PL15 is the one for me. The one that added in the what was it 1210.
Oh, that one's really nice.
That's the one for me. Really I like that one.
Yeah, I've not actually used that one, but I remember it was I think Willers was doing like 0 to 40 with the PL only or something. So
yeah, he did. That with the AP 6.3, I think, is good. That's a good one.
That's probably okay, right? Because like unless you come up against an Alton, you can still go through face shields. So like you can actually technically kill everybody who's not wearing, the mega face shield, either killer or Alton. So it will actually work. But yeah, it's funny because like I've only ever really used pistols before just as a throwaway gun to try and go and kill scavs. I've always taken in like a real weapon, like as Church knows and anyone who's listened for a while knows, I don't really do that many loot runs, and except for like right at the start of the wipe, and I always take like real medium stuff. Like my
Yeah.
budget kit is typically like the 6B3TM and a Vespa Hunter, right? That's like the budget kit for me. And so I very rarely do these like naked style like pistol runs. And when I do, it's because I'm questing, I have to go to the middle of Sawmill or something stupid like that. So I end up taking like a PM. And so I've ended up giving pistols like a really bad rap because the PM is really bad, right?
So bad.
Like going from something like that to like an actually nice pistol where the fire rate feels okay, like it's as fast as you can click kind of thing, and you've got 17 rounds in the mag. Like it's actually a big difference. And
Yeah.
it's funny that like out of all the guns, this is the one gun that I've been enjoying the most. I just find it hilarious. It's just super weird. It's just super weird. What have you been using, Gaz? What's your favorite?
Generally, it's the PP19. I seem to have come into a stock of them, even though you can't buy them at level. Is it level 2 prep you can buy them, or is it level 2 skill?
I never buy that gun, so I don't
It's
know.
one of the level 2s, and
Yeah.
as soon as I unlock it, I will I would just roll them. But I seem to have had a pretty good supply of them, and I just something about that gun. It just feels good. It just feels good in my hands. I can use it. That's the um. Other than that, default to an OPSKS with a whack a cobra on the dovetail and just go and have fun. Have fun. I don't know. I don't really have like a sort of an early. I've been using the AKS 74U as well. I'm not a huge fan of it. Just far too bouncy.
Yeah.
Without putting a lot of effort into a build. And even then, it's still one of the bouncier guns. But other than that, yeah, it's like I said, I had a little bit of success picking up actual scav, AK-74, 74Ms, stuff like that. I just love that platform in Tarkov. It's funny because I always play a USEC for the voice lines, but I'm like, yeah, but I like that weapon. I'd like that set of weapons because they get the PP19, don't they? That's probably where I'm getting them from.
Yes, from all the
Because we get
bears.
the MP5 and they get the PP19,
Yeah.
so obviously that's where I'm getting them from. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I've always loved
PP19
the
is good for me.
MP5. I've
I,
loved the MP5, but it's just not really working this way.
I
I,
feel
I
like the
think the 9
MPX is
mils.
just better. I did a video on it, and pretty much every conclusion I drew on every sort of stat plus how it felt in the hands, I just felt like the MPX was a better gun. It did better at, there's a couple of things. There's a couple of stats where you'd expect them to be flipped, but they're actually, one is like, all right, the MP5 actually wins here. I would expect the MPX to win, But I found overall the MPX beats the MP5 hands down, at least in my hands.
Yeah, I think like the MP5, like I really kind of fell in love with it with the MP5 SD just because it's
Yeah.
I
cheap.
love
It's like
the
you could just
SD.
buy it from
Yeah.
the SD is super cool. It's just cool. I just really like the weapon. It just feels cool. The whole thing about it's just like really neat, super quiet, like pop a
Yeah.
little pea shooter. It feels great to kill people with it. It's awesome.
Tango down.
Exactly. Right. Okay, Church. Important question here.
Okay.
As the only person with access to the flea market, is there anything that has been surprising for you so far? I'm sure you've already looked around, seen what's going on. Like the only things that I've seen is people typing on Twitter saying everything's really, really cheap. Everything's so cheap.
Everything's cheap.
Like,
yeah, that's what I was going to say is everything. I was kind of surprised everything was cheap, but it makes sense because everyone, we were talking about a little bit of this before the show, everyone's sort of like, I mean, I had 2 junk boxes and I was debating getting a third, guys. Mostly because I'm on standard account.
Yeah.
But it's just like everyone has so much hoarding stuff and then they're looking to offload that. And it's like, I mean, you'll see like gunpowders in like quantities of 8. I think I have like 20 blue gunpowders. Like I've just been holding onto them. The only thing I really sold in big stacks was like blue tape because they were like 25k a pop or something decent, I think I sold some wires too, but everything's still pretty cheap. I mean, some
how much are
stuff.
GPUs now? Do you have any like? Did you look at them?
Less than 200k.
Okay. I'm ready. My wallet is ready. Church.
Yeah, but I don't think it's worth it anymore. I mean, I guess it is passive income still.
How did they revert the Bitcoin changes? I haven't even seen
as far
anything
as
about
we
Bitcoin
know,
farm.
it's the same. It sells to the
Same as it
vendor
was
for the
pre-wipe.
same.
I don't
Yeah,
think it's the 100 hours. I think it's the way it was before they
Yeah.
completely like messed it up. But like they talked about this Tarbank coin, right? So I want to keep my optionality for this Tarbank coin. That's the thing for me. I
Yes,
want to go like make sure that I'm like in a good position for that because I think that's going to be important, and I don't know what's going to happen with it. So I
Yeah.
want to make sure that I'm there with it. So we'll see.
I feel like the chance to do that was, I feel like they had that element of surprise where people would sort of like, oh, can't wait to unlock the Bitcoin farm, and then you unlock it, and maybe they just call it like crypto farm, and you unlock it. I mean, people would have seen it if they changed from Bitcoin farm to crypto farm. People have been like, oh, what's going on here? I feel like they've missed that window if they were going to introduce it. I feel like it would have been much more like, whoa, they actually did it if they'd done it as the first few people were unlocking the
You
crypto
know what would have
farm.
been really cool is if you'd unlocked the crypto farm and then you could have chosen which to mine.
Ooh,
That would have been cool. And like
Mm.
Taiwan coin for now, let's say it has like no uses, no use. What are you going to do? You're going to mine bitcoins and sell them to therapists, or you're
It's
going to mine Taiwan coin
Dogecoin.
for no use? Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. It's just one with a picture of Nikita's face on it, just like
yeah.
that
I like that. I like that as an idea
would have been
where
cool.
it kind of
I
they go up and down depending on what's going on. Or yeah, no, I like that.
I do feel like they missed a window of opportunity because I was sort of anticipating it to be Tarbank. You know, it was like, has anyone
Yeah.
looted Bitcoin from Scav Boss or Rashala? And it's like, yeah, I got a Bitcoin here. And I was like, oh, you know, I was kind of
Yeah.
sad. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, is there anything? Because what's like? Because I anticipated like hoses being crazy, but I actually
They're 80K.
found. Okay, so they're still quite expensive, but they're not like up to the crazy heights
They're
as they were
not.
before.
Yes, yes. Because
we're
everyone's sort
talking.
of like, everyone's sort of like around the same level in their hideout. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not like we're looking for a spark plug to build our level 1 hideout generator. You know what I mean? I'm not looking for what's the requirements for level 1 med station. I can't even remember. You know what I mean? It's like
Syringe and a
every
pile of meds, I think.
Meds, I think. Yeah.
it's like it's kind of like we're at that hose stage or at the wire stage. You know, ES lamps is like for level 3 lights. Those are kind of
Yeah.
expensive, but they're on like 20 to 30K ish.
Like I said before, it's kind of kicking it down the road, isn't it? That's all that the level
Yeah.
20 did in terms of hideout. It's
Yeah.
like instead of like level 1 stuff, people are getting there and looking at level 2 stuff. And, you know, in terms of the hideout, it kind of, if anything, it makes it easier because you're not spending mega money on level 1 stuff and then level 2 stuff. You're finding the level 1 stuff and then buying the level 2 stuff. So you might end up saving a bit of money when you get to the flea market anyway.
Yeah, which I guess is the reason why there's less demand because people aren't buying as much. So that's why everything's cheap for now, anyway. I mean, things like CPUs and stuff are probably going to go up because people need like a ton of them to make the other
They
hideouts.
were
As we were saying,
Yeah.
right, it's like the level 2 and 3 things that are kind of those are really where it's at. And I guess that, like there's one change that people haven't really seemed to have spoken about that much. Actually, I was kind of surprised, but like supposedly they've removed all the high tier ammo off the traders, which
I was literally about
yes.
to bring that up. Yeah,
hasn't
that's
affected
Tilly's
us yet.
video I
Obviously,
saw.
yeah, I was watching that too, and it was what did they get rid of? Like M995, APSX. Like there's quite a few I think that they just removed.
AP63, 7N31.
Mm.
Yeah, all of it's
Oh yeah, so 9mm definitely dead now.
it's gone. Bye-bye.
APC 731, APSX, M995, and I'm not positive, but I've heard Ep.61 is still on traders.
Oh, it's still on it.
That's what I've heard. I don't know.
Really?
Okay. I would
Why?
have thought that would have been the first
what
to have gone, to be honest.
That's
but
what I asked, but
Okay. Well,
that's what I've heard.
Yeah, fine. Well, we'll see. But I think that's
'Cause
quite
I
interesting
think-
because, like, sorry, you go first, Judge.
I was just gonna say quickly. I think M61 is actually locked behind a Peacekeeper quest.
It is, but you can make it.
So, right.
I didn't even unlock that quest, by the way, last time because I was waiting for my sniper level to be high enough so that I could collect the quest to then get to level 9, blah 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 for Kappa, and then I just never ended up doing it, and I just ended up creating it in the hideout. But
it's a strange one, isn't it? The ammo changes. I don't think it sort of remains to be seen how much of an impact it'll have because I don't know how much people are going to care. It depends where the economy goes, doesn't it? If we go to the economy last white where Chads have all got 200 million rubles, well, they'll just buy it off the flea market instead then and stockpile it that way
I
still.
don't think it's going to be the same. I do think Bitcoin had a massive impact on that.
Yeah.
And, because I ended up doing my little experiment actually ended up doing kind of an estimate, right? So I had like 30 mil or something. And then I kept all my Bitcoins and then I sold them all in one go for 100 mil. And so like that was money that I'm not going to get again this time. and was
You missed out on that as well, didn't you? Because you didn't sell them at 850. You sold them about 500k or something, didn't you?
I sold them at 760. So I sold them at
Okay.
like the very next price level after the
Yeah.
therapist announcement. So as soon as therapist announced it, I was just like, right, this is it. Out it goes.
Off you go. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I probably lost like 10 or 15 mil there. But it was interesting. It was kind of more interesting just like seeing the impact. That was kind of what I wanted. I wanted to like play the game without that for a bit, just to see kind
Yeah.
of how much actually is
Mm.
it, because you can't like separate the two otherwise. And I
Right.
was like dipped for a bit and then like started because I was doing certain quests and then like carried on going back up. But the slow grind where like you slowly make a mill at a time rather than like every day you log in and it's just another mill and after 2 weeks you've got like 15 20 mil more, like because
Yeah.
it was insane. It was absolutely insane at one point. I was collecting because I upgraded my Bitcoin farm really early and I was collecting like 2.4 mil a day, right? It was like 800 a coin and you could make 3 per day. So it was just crazy. It was absolutely crazy. So that's not going to happen this time. And with the ammo not being on the traders, that's then going to drive the fleet even higher than it was last wipe because people were buying, their allocation of M995 or whatever. All those people now have to go somewhere. They're all going to come to the fleet. It was expensive anywhere on the fleet. So now it's going to just, I think some of this stuff's going to end up in the realms of 338 AP, where it's just completely insane. And then maybe that brings the single tap meta in a bit. I don't know. I mean, there's some people who are going to have like infinite rubles and can run this stuff, but I don't know if it's going to even be economic for Chads to do. We'll have to see how it runs out. But yeah, if they haven't changed M61, then shame on you because that's like insane if they haven't changed that.
I think we're looking at the possibly one of the longest wipes. I mean, obviously, it's no inside information or anything, but if they want to wipe with streets, then we could be looking at a 9-month wipe as well. So it'd be interesting to see
I think
how
it's
it
likely.
evolves. Yeah, and if 13.13 is dependent on streets, and we get to January and they decide it's not going to be February, it's going to be April. Does that extend it to then, a 10-month wipe? How if they keep
Right.
kicking it down because they won't have a patch, they're not going to just wipe with a bug fix patch. So if they're kind of gearing up for it and then realize 2 months out they're not going to be ready, what do they do? Wipe with nothing and then wipe the streets 6 months later or even 4 months later? So we could be looking at quite a substantial wipe cycle.
I agree.
I would predict.
I agree. Like now that they've wiped now, they're not going to wipe till streets, I don't think. And if everything goes to plan, maybe we get it in February, March, something like that. But we kind of know BSG timelines and that kind of thing. So it could well be April, May, June, or something beforehand. But we will see because this wipe that just gone was probably it was like, well, not probably, it was certainly the most like inflated economic
for
wipe
sure.
of all time, and people were kind of getting sick of it kind of like a month before the end. And so that's still like a good 5 months, right? And I know some people were sick of it early because they like pushed through, but I feel like there's like, you've got like a bell curve of players, and like the longer you keep it, the bigger the tail gets on that side after people who are like, here's the sick of it line, and it's just like the thing grows as you kind of move through the player base. And I think this time, given the changes they've made so far, it does look quite promising to push it out a bit at least. And we'll see. So even if that gives us like a month or 2 months or whatever, if it is an 8-month wipe or something, then maybe people again are only going to be sick of it, totally sick of it in like the last month or something. I don't know. So we'll see.
They've got the events in their back pocket now as well.
That's what I'm thinking.
And I thought that
I
I was still team no wipe up and I mean I switched sides as often as the wind blew, but which one was it? I think the Scav bosses meeting it up in reserve. People, Twitter was like alight with like just lost 15 million, had a great time. I'm like, could this be that they are trying to reset? They're trying to or soft reset the economy, release the patch, no wipe. I think they've got a trick up their sleeve as well. I think if they wanted to soft reset the economy without just going at wipe, they could probably do it. I think they could do it.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I mean,
They
like
can get creative with it.
Like they definitely can for sure, and BSG can pull all sorts of shenanigans. I mean, I switched over to team. Well, I actually wasn't on a team before. I was like just withholding judgment. But as soon as streets got pushed, that's when I was like, right, I'm on team wipe now. As soon as it got pushed, and we talked about it actually on the show. It was like once that got pushed, it just nothing else made any sense to me, and I'm pleased that it kind of worked out that way, I think. But yeah, someone's saying in chat Lighthouse will come up before Streets, which is true, and I don't think that there will be a wipe with Lighthouse. I don't think anybody thinks there'll be a wipe with Lighthouse. I wouldn't have thought you can release a new map without a wipe. That's fine. People can investigate it without having to be back at level 1. I think that's totally okay.
Yeah.
And so I think that's fine. And yeah, if we end up with a 6 to 9 month wipe on this one, we'll have to see. And given that stuff's a bit harder to come by this time, maybe it'll be all right. And it's an interesting one. But for all of its flaws, I am pleased in the direction that the game has gone with this particular patch. I know that there's issues,
Absolutely.
but it's interesting. Actually, on that topic, how have you guys? Like, I don't know how much Scav raids you've played, but like, how has the experience of Scav Karma been for you thus far?
It's actually been really like probably 80% of it has been great. I've run into I scavved the other night, and I think there was 4 of us, and so me and my brother scavved in as a duo, and 4 other people were kind of like, I think they were all solos, all just moping about together. Just he threw me an AI2, I threw him a duct tape or something, and we just kind of rolled around together. And there's been a few of those, and I actually think initially I was not a fan of the way that Scav Karma was implemented. It's still got some massive flaws. If they shoot you and whiff and you shoot back, you lose karma. It's terrible. But I do think that the Scav Karma interactions are exactly what BSG wanted them to be, for the most part.
I'm just either unlucky or untrustworthy, I guess. Because all of my interactions have just been KOS, or either I'm shooting at them first or they're shooting at me. Like, I just played an interchange raid the other night, and I basically looted all of Ollie and like all the back PCs, and I was heading out to the Immercon exit, and I heard running behind me, and so I sort of like peek out the corner, and I see it's 2 guys, and it's just like, at that point, all of my interactions have been like, when I tried to work with someone, they've killed me. So I'm just basically KOS for me going forward. And I only play like maybe 5 to 10 scav raids a swipe, maybe more, I don't know. So my sample size is small, but the last episode I told you about that reserve experience where I looted. I had all this loot. I go toward the extract. There's scavs there. I'm like friendly, but I really don't want to be. That's the thing. It's like I really don't trust you, so I don't want to be around you. So like I'll wiggle at you and then I'll run away. But I guess they see that as a threat, or like they can't trust me. I don't know. And then other times, like when I wiggle at them, and as soon as I turn my back, they shoot and kill me. So it's just like. I think I'm just unlucky, but part of me is just frustrated that I can't communicate. Like, hey, I have no intention of messing with you. I just want to go off and not be around you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like if you're someone that doesn't trust me, you'd be like, okay, well, if he's saying what's true, that's like, you know what I mean? It's like I can see where he's coming from because he doesn't trust us. You know what I mean? We both don't trust each other. So why not, let's just, instead of us forcing to be with each other and not trusting each other, let's just go our separate ways. That's how I look at it anyways. But it just seems like for whatever reason I just get shot in the back. So I don't know.
Maybe it's partly the maps you're playing too, because you're playing like quite spicy maps, right? It's like Reserve and Interchange are like, hotly contested for various things, and like I've actually played quite a lot of Scav, because it's like I run like random Scav raids in between doing other stuff, and so I like pop on and like run a Scav and then like go off and do other things. And I've been playing almost exclusively customs and woods, and I've had much better experience on both of these maps for various reasons, either just like not seeing that many people, the PMCs not really being there, Scavs that I run across, will like bump into each other, both do the wiggle and then just run on. Like I've had a lot of that. And for me, it's been interesting and quite good. Like there's one unintended consequence of the Scav Karma, which I didn't think about until I'd actually gone through it and done it, which is fascinating for me, is that as a solo player playing PMC, one of the big advantages that you get is not having to worry about anybody, and you can just shoot anyone, right? But Scav solo is actually different now, and you're almost a little bit more like the AI if you think about it, right? Because the AI has to identify you and go, they shout, and then they start shooting. And now players are a bit more like that too, because it's just like, is it scav? Is it a PMC? Like they have to kind of identify you first. Like not everybody, obviously. Some people just shoot you, but like the vast majority of people who care about their scav karma have to like go, oh, is this a person that? And that sort of like piece of indecision kind of puts scavs on the back foot a little bit, which I kind of like because people like used to just run around with impunity, just shooting everybody, and now it's more like there's kind of two elements to it. The first one is like, yeah, when you encounter a PMC, you don't know if they're a PMC or not, and it makes the PMC experience more realistic rather than just getting like, being on reserve and just getting freaking mobbed by scavs as soon as any gunshots are heard. Right? It's like it's different now. And secondly, this is one of the perfect things that we've been talking about for ages about like rebalancing the stuff to make things harder for chads and make things easier for new players because if things are going well, and they have done for me, and I know you've had a bad experience so far, George, so it's probably not as applicable to you. But maybe new players are playing more customs or whatever, where people are a bit more friendly. The scav runs where you're just looting are now a lot easier if people are playing by the scav karma rules. And chads don't really play scav runs. And so that's kind of, I don't know, it's like a big boost to the new player. Like new players love playing scav runs because there's nothing to lose. And now you can just like run around, loot some stuff. Like there's a, greater than 50% chance for me at least, where when I bump into somebody, we'll just like wiggle and then we'll just carry on with our lives and just keep our loot. Whereas like before you'd have to be like avoiding everybody, like skulk through the shadows, like playing proper like rat gameplay. Whereas now you can just wander about. Like I'd spend most of my time, like I've been doing key runs to try and get rid of some of these quest blockers, which I'm stuck behind at the moment, which is very annoying. And I literally spawn in, sprint, like shift W straight to dorms, do the key run through all the jackets. Half the time it's not even looted because people aren't even going to dorms, and then sprint out. Like sometimes I don't even wear my headphones because I'm shot at that little that it doesn't even matter. Like it's crazy. I literally just run around, just grabbing keys, whatever. I'm like running through both third and second story dorms. I think I've been killed once, and I've done like 10 runs of these jackets. Like it's crazy. Like you can just run around, do whatever you like. You feel as a scav like you're much more at home. Which is the way it should be. I don't know. I quite like the feeling. I like the feeling of the way Scav Karma has been implemented. It's working for me at least.
It's definitely got some issues, but I think they can. I think they can iron it out. It's almost as if they wanted Scav Karma to come out alongside VoIP. It's almost as if they tried hard to keep those two systems tied together, and ultimately couldn't do it.
Which is a shame.
I'm not sure when. They've mentioned PMC Karma. I know they want to do it, and they're probably gathering data from Scav Karma. I'm not sure.
For the audio listeners, you didn't see my intense grimace there that Church is laughing at, I think. But like, oh God, I'm so nervous for PMC Karma because it's just...
Yeah. It might take away from what Tarkov is, kind of the way that, identifying a USEC and making the choice to kill them or not when... It's kind of like you've got two game modes here. You've got your PMC and you've got your Scav. Your Scav, you know that there's that decision. Your PMC, you know you can kill indiscriminately. And it's like, it's me against the world or us against the world. You just like, move, shoot it all the time, no matter what, unless you're playing with a friend or whatever. But I think maybe they should leave that in the... Maybe they should leave that in the Scav exclusively.
Yeah, unless they think of a really good way of implementing it, then like if they're going to implement it just the way it is now with scavs, then I think I think it should maybe not go in as it is. But with VoIP, we'll see. Like maybe it'll be better. Like we'll have to see how scavs works with VoIP first. But I'm a little nervous about it. If they don't give us more tools to be able to identify people or give you reasons to work with the other PMCs, those things need to be there first. Yeah, I don't think it can go the other way around. Like now, like you can just about get away with Scav Karma because Scavs doesn't matter that much. But like Scav Karma without VoIP, I think is a bit silly. It should have been... They should have worked on VoIP first and then done Scav Karma afterwards, really, if they were going to prioritize. But yeah, I don't know. Without more thought on it with PMC, I feel like it could be a bit rough and just weird for the game. So I don't know, really. I don't know.
And don't kill raiders as your Scav.
Oh my goodness! Yes, Church. Did you see this? Onepeg. Did you see this stuff about Onepeg?
I feel bad for him.
I feel bad for him too, kind of, in some ways. Like it really sucks. Like it's quite entertaining in some ways that he's like it's good for his content, right? It's like it's
great.
It's great publicity for him because he's like one of the first people, especially the people who are kind of well known in the community and putting out stuff to a lot of people, to get to level 6 in the first place. And then he's also the first person to get like max negative scav karma too. So he's like 2 times scav champ.
The 1-2 most popular videos on his channel: how I got to max scav karma, how I got to max negative scav.
That's funny.
Man.
Yeah, It's funny, isn't it?
funny.
Because it's like obviously that has probably happened to people who are like, 1 or 2 karma or whatever. But the fact that Onepeg got to 6 and then got reset to -12 is it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I hope they reinstate it. I'm sure it's as simple as turning a dial for BSG if
Yeah,
they
I think
wanted to.
so.
I don't know
Like,
how they can interact with individual accounts.
yeah, because that's the thing for me. It's like either they should do, because so this has happened before, right? Where people were choosing strength and they reset
Yes.
every single person back to level 1. And I don't know, like there's a critical bug with Scav Karma. I almost feel like I know it would suck for a lot of
It's
people, but I feel like they kind of need to either do that or like and only do that if they can't, discriminate and say, okay, who's killed raiders? Like I don't know how their back end works. It probably is not this easy. But you can have a look and see like
They've
who's
got a
had
lot of
like
stats.
yeah, it's like who's had massive Scav Karma changes, revert these people back to the way, or at least put it back to 0 or something. Because I'm sure there's got to be
Yeah.
a bunch of people. Because one of the worst things, right? Like on his Twitter, and I can see why he's getting frustrated. Actually, quite a few of the responses, he was getting quite annoyed with people being like, "Oh, why don't you just wipe your account? Just start again." He's just like, "You're not allowed within a month. You're not allowed for 4 weeks. You
Yeah.
cannot wipe your account in a wipe." So I can't wipe my account because it's still 2 weeks to go. Um, and I think he got asked that question like 3,000 times. Why don't you just wipe your account, one pig? Um, but yeah, it's a bit rough. But like, I kind of like some people are like, oh, BSG don't want to do something just because like streamer, someone's well known, asked them to do it, blah blah blah. Like, I think there's something to be said about that kind of. But with a bug like this, you have to, if they have the ability to go in and reset everybody who the bug has happened to, even just put them back to naught or something. Like, okay, it's a bug, we figured it out. It's a really big one. Because right now, like, it takes him 2 hours to get his Scav raid again. Like, it's insane.
and
Oh,
he's
yeah.
KOS by other scat.
Yeah.
He's marked
It's
and cursed and
brutal, isn't
tagged.
it? That
Yeah,
I think
like
it's
he
a good
literally
thing. Not that it happens to Onepeg. I'm talking about the massive cooldown and stuff like that. It's a good thing because it does. It's the question between you don't want to reward people for positive scav karma too much because then it just means that it's just more into the economy. It just kind of flows. I think you want to lean into the negatives being harsh, but also with kill on site, difficult to revert
Mm.
back to back to 0, isn't it? I
Yeah,
don't think
it is hard.
I think my I've played a fair bit. I've probably done maybe 15, 20 scav raids. My karma is whatever it started at. I've had no change. I think I'm in favor of the you loot a certain amount of items and extract without killing anyone gives you 0.02 or something.
Yeah, I think did Pesley ask someone asked Nikita about it? I think it must have been Pesley. It was asking about that. Oh no, it was on the Tarkov TV. Sorry, it wasn't on the Pesley interview. It was the Tarkov TV where I think like somebody in the community actually asked him that on chat, and he said, "Nah, you kind of have to do something to get Scav Karma." And
Yeah,
there was a
saw
good
that.
idea that I saw that I thought was kind of fun. Was like you could potentially donate items to Fence. So you don't actually get them. You have to like give them to him based on the value
mhm.
potentially you could get Scav Karma on. Because then that would make more sense. Someone actually, yeah, it was
I like that.
I was actually gonna put it out. Somebody posted it somewhere. Was it on one of my? I think it might have been a comment on YouTube, and it was really insightful. Someone was saying, "Oh yeah, it should," and then like the reputation with Fence should reflect like your flea market reputation. That should be your flea market rep and affect your slots for your PMC and stuff. Because Fence is the access to the trading network, right? Because it's like a
Mhm.
the underground network between PMCs or whatever. Because the flea market's like not really a thing, but Fence is the only kind of
Like
real
Ragman.
implementation of that.
Is it like Ragman and Fence? Maybe Fence delivers and Ragman. I think doesn't Ragman have something to do with the flea market?
He must do because he gives you the cash, doesn't he?
Yeah, there you
In
go.
game.
Yeah,
So there is some interaction there, but like I kind of like that idea. It's like, okay, well, there's an incentive to that gets good scav karma because then it's going to impact your like your flea market stuff. But I don't
maybe
know.
the delivery time from your scavs when you buy things on the flea market. This
Interesting.
idea has been floated around that
Yeah,
you don't buy things and have it immediately delivered. You have, scavs deliver it to you, and based on your scav karma is how fast it goes, and
yeah. I think
that would
that idea
mega
is interesting.
incentivize positive scav karma because people wouldn't be happy about being at -12 and having it take 48 hours to deliver
Yeah.
a
I always
loadout
think that
versus
that
4.
idea has been interesting alongside the idea of like ordering stuff from traders, like high level
Yeah,
ammo and that kind of stuff. Like making you actually have to like make an order. I feel like those ideas could be kind of interesting to like stop the flea from being so insane.
So
It's
I have
pretty boring going to a trader as well, finding them out of stock. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I'd like to. You know, when you get some back in, can you maybe give me a ring?
Exactly.
I have a philosophical question for you guys.
Hmm.
When it comes to scav karma, what is the objective? Is it trying to incentivize a particular player behavior? Because if so, then a player like me, for example, which I have positive karma for different reasons, but someone that's killing on sight, I'm a bad scav. So if it's like the goal is to incentivize good scav behavior, then it sort of like shifts the whole, I guess, a mentality and even approach to it. Like you were describing, you were literally just running around in packs of scavs. Like you were just running around looting. Um, so then there's almost no, if like let's just say the norm or like the scav culture becomes like just everyone's friendly to each other. Then there's really no choice to make, right? You know what I mean? You just do the thing.
Also,
Um,
there's also like very limited ways to actually gain scav karma if everybody is good scav, because the best way to gain scav karma is to watch a scav kill another scav and then kill that scav.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
it is an interesting one. It is an interesting question that you pose there, because I think it is supposed to be a player behavior changing element, and it is supposed to make scavs more uh, more friendly to each other and more of a threat to PMCs. I think is probably the idea, because the game is PMCs, right? That's the game. That's the game
Right.
that is Tarkov. And scavs running around killing each other at the same time, that's fine. Like, people who complain a lot about like scavs on reserve, I actually can't, like, I've never really minded, honestly, like getting completely hoarded by scavs. Like, the FT is designed in a very, very clever way where it incentivizes you to play as, the crappy AI. Like, it's quite cunning, actually, in the fact that it, incentivizes people to be a more realistic AI. You don't need to have that many AI on the map, because you've got real people who are incentivized to go in and like play the baddie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though I think they're probably the innocent civilians at one stage, but anyway, they're the bandits now. And so I think that is the idea: is that it's supposed to be a player behavior driving thing. That scavs fighting other scavs isn't really the game. The scavs working together, and if they come up against another PMC, they actually pose
They
a
do
threat, because
gain.
previously, before then, right, if you come up against, like, especially the late wipe, if you come up against a player scav, they don't really pose any threat. A lot of people scav in on their own. Not that many people do, some people do, but like, I find a lot more like duo and trio PMC groupings than you do scav groupings, because people aren't really scared to play scav, so they go in and play it on their own. They use it for practice or whatnot as well. And so even having players driving the scavs, I feel like they've never really shown a great threat to real players. And now, because scavs kind of are much more incentivized to group up together and blah blah blah, like, it not only, firstly, it helps new players by making the experience much less brutal as scav, and you can actually go and like loot stuff and get the kind of free money, which helps new people, and you just naturally stop doing that more as you get more experience. And then the second thing being, like, yeah, you actually pose a real threat to PMCs. Oh my god, there was something really, really funny, which was on Reddit. I'm not sure if do I actually have it to hand, or have I just broken my thing? Maybe I've just broken my stream. Anyway, it's and I was trying to like remember what it said, and it's basically, the guy was like, yeah, I saw a player scav being engaged by 3 players, and I thought I'd help out. He couldn't stand against the 4 of us. Um, and I just thought that was really, really good.
That's
It
funny.
was just hilarious. But like, yeah, look, I think the PMC thing is the real deal, because that's supposed to be like the actual game, and that's kind of what BSG are going for, in my opinion. That would be my answer to the question, anyway.
Scav cooperation fits the vision of Tarkov. I think that's what it comes down to. I think it's supposed to incentivize that level of cooperation, because that's how Tarkov should feel. I think they do a lot of. I think they make a lot of these changes on emotion about how this game should feel, how we want it to feel, um, and sometimes they come off, sometimes they don't. Um, I mean the fence 100,000 was step one in saying it's actually okay to work with other scavs and other players, and go in as a scav and go up to them and find that and I think a lot of people possibly before that were kind of like, oh, any other player that I see is going to kill me no matter what. And I think people going to that extract actually found that, oh, well, actually, we're all just kind of standing around here. It's like a little, it's kind of like it was the first taste of maybe the second taste after the flea market of Tarkov actually feeling like it could be an MMO, that in that kind of landscape. And it proved to those people, and I think it was actually a really, really solid move from BSG to make that extract do that before the wipe. Because I think it made people more trusting of other random players, which obviously then benefits the Scav Karma system, because they might think twice about shooting that Scav, because they're like, well, firstly, now I know that not everyone's evil going to kill me, steal my stuff. And secondly, it's like, well, I lose karma. Don't want that.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was a really good thing to just kind of get players like in the mindset, getting ready for having some kind of system that they have to care about other players, and they're not just going to kill on sight, and that it is possible to run around with people that you don't know and not all immediately die to each other. It is something that is doable. So I think it was a masterstroke. I think it worked really, really well. I do.
It is interesting because they've sort of chosen behavioral model where the behavior they don't want, they punish, right? So if you kill someone, you lose karma. But I guess when you work together, you really don't gain karma. So you're not really, there's not a direct incentive to work together per se. It's like this weird game where it's like, I saw this, I think it was on Veritas's stream. He was playing and he was working with a guy, okay, and then someone else was being aggressive and they were like nading him, and he wanted to protect this friend he found. So he goes and pushes the guy that's nading, and he kills him, right? But he loses scav karma because he doesn't get shot. So then he comes back to his friend, and then as soon as he turns his back, his friend shoots him in the back, and that guy got scav karma bonus. Right. Yeah. It's like they kind of messed up a little bit, but it is interesting to me that it's like they're punishing bad behavior, but they're not necessarily rewarding good behavior. They're rewarding you're like being rewarded for punishing bad players who are already getting punished for being bad. Like, it's weird. And then the other part is like the PMC, you get rewarded for taking car extracts, which I think needs to be gone. I think that because that's probably where most of my karma has come from, is taking car extracts.
The only way that makes sense to me is that it's Scav's network driving the car.
Yeah, and I think that's the lore.
It doesn't affect your Scav karma though. Like, it shouldn't affect your Scav. It's your PMC
that's what I
did
think.
it. So yeah, I agree with that.
But the other thing is, like, as you kill Scavs as a Scavs, you get that bounty on you, and it starts to add up. And then, like, let's say I play 10 raids and I kill 10 Scavs, and one Scav each raid. Then my 11th raid, someone kills me, they get all that negative karma added to their bonus karma. Like, it transfers over.
Is that how it works?
Yes, I think Onepeg said this in his video. Wow. So it's like when someone killed Onepeg in his video where he was like -6 because he killed those 2 raiders, that guy got like max karma instantly, which is crazy. So I don't know. It's interesting because for me, I think how I'm gonna go forward and just see how it plays out is I'm just going to be a bad scav and see if I can just maintain that, not get too heavily punished. Because right now, like I said, I'm positive, and part of that is because I played with a buddy and he got killed by scavs, and I killed those scavs because they were aggressive. So I'm gonna see how that works out. And the other thing I wanted to touch on quickly was I don't even think max scav karma is worth it. Like, I was looking at it and I'm just like, ew, you can buy a gear, like a gun that's like way more expensive, like because it's like Fence's normal price, it seems like.
Yeah.
And it's like way inflated.
Weird.
Yeah, I was like, this doesn't even seem worth it. I mean, granted, you get like the instant scav, and like, sure, your scav has armor and the AK and whatever, Sure, those are things cool, but I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know.
I think it's
Yeah.
one of those things, isn't it? It's where they're trying not to. They don't want to give the scav, an Alton, Slick, and HK
Oh, sure,
sort
sure.
of a bit of an extreme example, but I don't think they want to reward, especially with the more frequent scavs because of the quicker cooldown. I don't think they want that loop to keep going because oftentimes, like if I'm really slow at selling my gear from a scav raid, I can scav back in. Obviously, not beginning of like when it's 20 minutes, but when it gets down to like 13 minutes or whatever it is, I often find that if I'm doing something else or sorting something else out or and selling the stuff I got from my scav, I can get back in immediately. So imagine if that was the loop when I think it can go down to something like 6 minutes. Is that
That's
about
pretty
right?
low now. Yeah, I think so.
With Intelligence Center, or
Mm.
it is Intelligence Center,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah. And Max Scav Karma, you could theoretically just roll scavs who
You
are
could, yeah.
running level 4 armor. Obviously the durability is always going to be rubbish, I think,
I think so.
unless maybe it goes up to 80 at max. I don't think it does, but I think they want to maybe stay away from people rolling through scavs.
Perhaps.
Probably why it's not that amazing at top tier. And also the thing about buying uninsured gear back is, yeah, okay, when Onepeg got there, he was the first that we know of to get there. He had pick of the market. Like he could just sit there and just wait for things to come back up. I don't know how instanced it is, or whether it's like it can't be
Right.
everything, can it?
Yeah, I don't know how it works at all. Like, it could just be a random selection of loot, honestly, the way that it's implemented. It sounds
I
like
think that's
quite
what it is.
overkill to go and, actually like link up the stuff that's expiring on the ground of the raids back into the system, into the top of fence. It seems a bit much.
It's almost 100% that, because I was thinking like, well, hang on a minute. So the loot's not great now, and Onepeg is the only person who has it. What happens in 4 weeks' time?
Yeah.
Is it just literally going to be TOSs that people didn't insure? Because why would you insure a TOS?
Well, it's interesting because the only
that.
thing that I started not insuring towards the end was when I was running factory and running a lot of slicks, because I stopped
Yeah.
insuring a lot of this gear. But on the other hand, that's because all of it got taken, and so it'll all get taken by player scavs. So actually, that's probably what ended up on fence anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's a strange one.
Well, we're actually probably kind of coming to the end. We're running at what, about an hour and a half, I think, or something like that.
Roughly.
Was there anything else? I think we've covered like a lot of the stuff
Yes.
that I want to speak about. Anyway, was there like any other like closing thoughts or anything that anybody has? Like anything we didn't manage to get through?
There was a couple of things I wanted to touch on. Back to the ammo and the traders debacle. So kind of what I think, and in regards to the flea market, is that because everyone's hoarding a bunch of stuff now currently, and when you unlock the flea market, you're sort of like exchanging with other players. Like, hey, I have 9 bulbs, I need 5 more, but this guy needs 5 more wires, but I have like a ton of wires, you know what I mean? So you're kind of just like exchanging everything, and then everyone's gonna like level out. So I think we'll level out eventually. But as far as the ammo goes and the ammo crafts, one thing that I like about this system in particular is that for the high tier ammos, the green gunpowders, for example, I guess that's a bad example. The red gunpowders, the parts to make red gunpowder or to make the ammo, we'll say. The lower level players can get those items and sell them to the high level players. And so it's sort of like a transfer. I mean, maybe it's a bad transfer, but then again, maybe it's not, because they're getting high pin ammo. The low level player doesn't even have high pin armor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're getting something. This guy needs money. This guy needs gunpowder. You know what I mean? It's like a good way. Instead of before, it was like, let me camp the traders, and after I sold all my items, now I can buy the thing I really want. Like it goes nowhere. It just vanishes. The money just goes to trader and disappears. So I'm actually interested to see how this system plays out, because I know some people are like, this isn't good enough. You know, people are just going to craft ammo and use it. That's fine, but they still got to get the parts to make the ammo. You know what I mean? Either if they find it by themselves, that's fine. But more than likely, they're probably just going to buy it and sell something they don't want. And then that other person's going to get something exchanged. So I think it's actually going to be pretty interesting. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Well, at least there's a lead time on crafts when you buy them from a trader's instant, and it takes X amount of time to craft ammo. So, you know,
Sure.
there is that. There's, you know, you've got to have the materials and you've got to wait. So if you burn through your 300 rounds before your crafts, then you need to move down a tier of ammo.
Yeah.
Thing is, so you
That's a
can
good
still
point.
buy other people's ammo of the fleet that they've crafted too. So
Yeah,
there'll be
that's true, yeah.
supplies of components on the fleet, and then there'll also be supplies of the crafted things also on the
Yes,
fleet.
that's also
So
true.
if you have infinite money, you can just buy whatever still. So I don't know
That's
if
what we
it
were saying
completely
before,
fixes
yeah.
it. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
really. So it is going to be interesting. I do think though that I really do think that ammo is going to be a lot more expensive than it was for the top stuff.
I think so
Now,
too.
off the traders, I really, really do, because it's like
Yeah,
the equation is the same, except one of the sources of
exactly.
ammo is gone. So like
Yeah.
there is only one way the price will move, right? I just don't see anything else happening, and yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
inevitable to me. But where? That's a much harder question to answer. You know, if like M9M5 last wipe before the announcement of the wipe was what 4,000
Yeah, about that.
a shot, something like that. I am gonna guess, and it's a proper guess. I'm gonna guess that M995 by the time we're sort of 4 months in, I reckon it'll probably be like 10k, 12k around. I would guess.
You
We'll
reckon?
see. I really do
Even
think
with
so.
the Bitcoin farm not being as big of a feature in this time round.
I think so. I think so.
Be
But
interesting.
we'll see.
This game needs a money sink.
It does.
Like, not necessarily even a optional. Like, there's an optional money sink. It's clothing. Like, it was less of a money sink before, and then what did they do? Like 1,000% prices, basically.
Yeah.
It needs a mandatory money sink.
Well,
And
I
we're
mean,
getting into,
sorry.
yeah, fuel. You could argue, I suppose, it is kind of a sort of that level. I think there needs to be some sort of it encroaches on my sort of hardcore philosophy for the game. And this would affect me because there are times where I can't play for 4 or 5 days at a time. But something that's constantly draining your bank balance, and obviously you can't just constantly drain someone's bank balance. There needs to be some sort of benefit or reason for it. But I think some flea market tax is good, but I think it could go further.
I agree. I think we in church spoke about this before. What I was going to say is like we talked about survival games and why Tarkov is less of not really like other survival games where we said before like the fundamental principle behind survival games is bars that go down quite quickly and you have to fill them back up, whatever that is, whatever that
Yeah.
might be. And in Tarkov, the bars go down pretty slowly and are cheap to fill. It's like fuel. Yeah, it's a bit of a drain, but it funds everything. It does everything within the hideout. And so like later on, it's kind of a no-brainer just to keep it on. Whereas like, potentially if like you're secured, like the way that I would like to see it is that the higher level the hideout, the more expensive it gets. So, if you're like Chad player right at the end, your hideout's like really expensive to maintain because you have to replace security cameras because they break, or graphics cards of durability and you have to replace them. Things degrade, right? And this is something that's kind of like real life and is annoying about the real world, right? Is that stuff just breaks, right? And you have to replace things. Whereas like in EFT, it's like, oh, well, now I've got it now. I've got it forever. I will have my workbench forever, or
Yes,
I
the
have this forever.
permanence.
Yeah. And so that kind of like scaling cost of like I think the hideout's the perfect place to implement this. The
Yeah, I
scaling
think
cost of
so.
that would be good.
Well, the reasoning behind it is simple, isn't it? You're paying scavs to keep your hideout intact.
Potentially, yeah, or yeah, exactly. Even that,
So
just like
something like that, yeah.
yeah,
If you didn't want to go too deep into like, oh, your workbench is degrading, it's like, no, well, your mansion costs more to, look after than your flat. It's
durability on everything, durability on modules, durability on barrels, pistol grips,
no,
charging handles on GPUs, on everything.
I
I'm
mean,
going durability crazy. You just need it on everything.
they could
yeah,
do that, but it's interesting because that's sort of like a counter, like it is a money sink. Okay, so like someone could say, "Hey, the Bitcoin farm's a money sink." Yes and no, because it's really a fountain.
Oh, yeah.
Once you
Investment.
invest, yes, once you invest,
investment.
it's a permanent thing. It doesn't go away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's constantly giving you money. So if they could like balance that by having like money sinks, and I think durability is probably the best way to do that. I guess. I mean, I can't really see any other Maybe the I don't know. They could come up with something, but the thing is like Tarkov is less of a hardcore game and way more of a rogue like light. You know what I mean? Because there's so many upgrades that are just like permanent,
Mhm.
and it's
Oh
like
yeah.
you have to have a wipe to have a reason to play. I feel like because the game becomes so easy, quote unquote, that you just have all this constant resources. You know what I mean? Like Tarkov, like you said,
Yeah.
the survival games, how you're constantly trying to like manage bars that are going down. Tarkov is like you're trying to slowly increase bars, and then the more you play the game, the bars start rapidly expanding. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just like
That's
yeah.
that's
So
about right. Yeah. No, I heard your point. I think over the past couple of podcasts, I think you guys mentioned about how it's kind of a roguelike, and it's true. It's you're coming out of raids with you're either coming out with stuff to go back into the next one stronger, or you're coming
mhm.
out and every time you die, if you're using your secure container effectively, you're
Mhm.
still bringing stuff back in.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I've not brought
No,
that up an hour
100%.
and a half in.
Exactly. How about this though, right? How about this? The more modules you have on, the more fuel it takes. How about that? Just as a start, the more GPUs you have, the more fuel it takes. So maybe you're going to have to actually think about which modules you have on, rather than going, "Oh, I'm going to have one can of fuel, and that's going to just run the hideout. It runs everything. It runs level 3 Bitcoin farm and the workbench and the moonshine generator and the nutrition center
Yeah,
and the med center, like all on the same
Let's
amount of
see.
fuel as one dude making an AKM out of a Vepr.
they'd have to
Like
ramp
that's
it up, I think, wouldn't they? Like
yeah, and so
individual
and
costs.
then you
Yeah,
have to then you think about it, right? You're just like, well, okay, it's really expensive now to run like all this stuff. Do I want to be making bitcoins? Do I want to be making M61? Like now I have to make a decision, and
Hmm.
this is where the interesting choices happen because then you have to make a decision about things. And not having to make a decision makes the game boring, which is the reason why people get bored at the end of the wipe. Oh my god, it's all the same thing. Sorry.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, that could work because then you would either prioritize one station, or if you
Yeah,
wanted to take advantage of everything at once, then you have to pay the extra cost of that.
Hmm.
yeah,
So it would
or
kind
like
of
yeah, even have
yeah.
to
Just
like
have
turn
to
the
be careful
generator up
that
onto
Bitcoin
overdrive or
didn't.
something.
Yeah, you just have to be careful that Bitcoin didn't nullify that. You know what I mean? Like that. I suppose you make the decision on whether the Bitcoin ends up running your hideout because of the costs, or whether you're just using the Bitcoin generator and earning money to buy kits. I don't know. Yeah, it's a strange one. I'd quite like to see a wipe where they remove currency altogether and everything is barter.
Oh, that would be kind of interesting because
Absolutely everything.
that basically is hardcore then, because that's like actual hardcore. But then you still got the traders on different tiers. That's actually very interesting.
Because I feel like it kind of makes sense. Like, why would I suppose that some of the traders still have contact with the outside world, so
Mm.
that's where the money comes in. But I think it'd make a lot more sense for things like maybe the flea market if you just make it barter. I think you don't
The
even need
only
found and raid at that point.
the only thing with that is you will create a fiat currency, assuming you can still interact with traders that you can. People will find the item like Cyclone, for example, and be like, all right, you want this M4 mag? I want 2 Cyclones. You want this LEDX? I
Alyonka.
want 50 Cyclones. Yeah,
It already happened.
there'll be
It already
something
happened
where
with
you can buy
Alyonka.
it. You get all the parts, you sell all
Alyonka
the
is a good
parts to
one. Yeah,
the trader, then you get all the cash, and then you buy the thing you want from the trader. Like
yeah.
it's difficult.
I would like to see some sort of another big massive time sink of mine is like Fallout games and Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls series, and that kind of barter system for in Fallout it's a great example because they use bottle caps, which are a meaningless currency to you and I because we don't know what the value of a bottle. Like to us, the value of a bottle cap is nothing. Gets thrown in the bin. But in that universe, you can buy, you got enough of them. You can buy the biggest, baddest weapon, but the value of the currency is what they make it. And the trading back and forth is like, oh, this is worth this amount of this, and like you say, you'd have a bit of a faux currency going on because everyone had, Alyonkas is a good example. It's already been the sort of faux currency. I remember when I started playing, I'm like, why is everybody obsessed with this chocolate? It's like because it's just like a consistent thing that everybody. I think there were crafts for it, wasn't there? Was it using a craft?
There are crafts, but one of the reasons why that became so popular was because um, there was, I think, I can't remember exactly what change they made, but it was a change that they made to the flea market fee, and it was very, very cheap to barter all kinds of things for Alyonka because the price of them is so low, right? So if you're trading like a Red Rebel, the fees for that are insane because the internal price for a Red Rebel is very, very low, but the internal price for Alyonkas is also very, very low. So trading like 75 Alyonkas for one Red Rebel hardly cost you anything in flea market fees in comparison to putting it up for real money. And so all of the expensive items, LED-X, graphics cards, Red Rebel, all this kind of stuff, all ended up getting traded for Alyonka, and then that trickled down to like almost everything because like, well, you're like, well, Red Rebel is worth this on the open market for cash, and then that's this many you could buy Alyonkas for this much, and so that kind of implies that the Alyonka, this is how much the ratio of the two, and then it's like everything is then just like priced in Alyonka, which is like I honestly absolutely adored that, and like so many economists would have a complete field day investigating that system when it was up, and then finally they killed it, which is a real shame. But like I thought it was super funny.
Sort of thing. I loved the thing that annoyed me about the removing the finding raid tag was that kind of killed a bit of what drew me to Tarkov in the first place. That like I loved that I could just sit at my computer and I don't really feel like raiding, but I've got an hour to kill. Let's just flip some Salewers. Just buy them cheap and sell them high, and managed to make a 6K profit. And you're just like, oh. So in that hour, I managed to earn 100K, and it was just cool. Like I don't know, that was one. It was a casualty of the founding raid.
I do think that there is some value there in the aspect that it was a risk reward scenario. You could buy up all the stock of a key, for example, and then try to flip it, and the market could just not bite and you would lose out, or the market would bite and you would make a profit. But at least there was like there was a chance, I mean, something could go wrong. It was risky, and I feel like that's really the heart of Tarkov is like there's like that risk reward, man. We got to keep that in the game. I feel like it's so I don't know.
It's a shame. I did absolutely adore that part of the game. I'm not gonna lie. You're amongst friends here on that point. I mean, the game's changed. I enjoy it nonetheless, but there's nothing better than like spotting a gun that's being sold at the same price as all the other guns, but it's got some attachment on it that's of value, like I used to do that all the time. It was like AKM with like a CAA on it or something, and you like buy the AKM, you take the CAA off, you sell the CAA for 20K, you then buy another handguard, you put that on, and then you sell the AK for 20K, and you bought the whole thing for 20 grand, so you make 20 grand. It's like that was some of my favorite stuff, just like some of the parts that like it's so intricate, like I love it. And there was like one of the very first videos I made was about going into 7.62 weapons, double clicking on the magazine, like turning it around, and you can see whether there's BP in it. And that was one of my, honestly, that is to this day is one of my absolute favorite tips, and it's not useful anymore because you can't really like. Okay, you can go and look if you're going and buy it on the flea or whatever, but like you can't go and like reflip that stuff because you used to be able to then extract all the BP out the mag, like sell the BP for like 5 times the value of the gun because someone would just like left it in there. Like some of the little intricate things like that, I absolutely adore. But it's a casualty, unfortunately, of botting, like cheating, RMT, like all of this stuff, which is just a real shame. And so even though I did love it, I also think that the whole concept of the flea market is a bit weird, and so this kind of like stemmed it and like stopped one side of the flea and kind of like really ground it up a bit, which in some ways is good because to have like effectively what is like a proper fully integrated totally liquid trading platform in the middle of Escape from Tarkov has always been a bit weird. And I almost think that maybe the flea market was a mistake in the first place because they put a lot of effort into it, whatever. Nikita now will not remove it, but he's going to change it so that it works. And I think there is a big part of that, the fact that they've spent so much time working on it, that he can't get rid of it, right? He can't bring himself to remove it, even though the game probably would be better for it. And there's other ways of doing it. I'm sure there's another way that they can make it work and keep it in a format that makes sense where I think all they just need to do is like have a little speed bump in there somewhere. Like you either have to like go somewhere or risk something. I mean, they said they're not going to do this, but if you had the flea market in a particular location, you had to take stuff back and forth. That, for as an example, that they're probably not going to do, but that on its own would, change the flea market considerably and add some element of risk in it. As I said, they're probably not going to do that, but there's lots of things that they can do to make it kind of work better and be a little bit less like you said, right, make it like barter only or something. There's like, even if you end up making some other random like pseudo currency or something, I kind of don't mind because it's like Yeah,
I like that.
emergent player behavior is fun. We've talked before about
Absolutely.
emergent player behavior, and I think that's that's okay. If people make their own currency, then that's cool. If it happens to be Russian chocolate, then so be it.
I think just one last point out the
Yeah.
fact that they've been working on the flea market, and like you say, they probably don't want to get rid of it because they've worked so long on it. I think sunk cost fallacy is the right use. This is the right use for that word. They need to be careful that they don't then continue to try and like bandage and plaster the flea market for the next 4, 5, 6 years, taking all that development time away when they could have just removed it. I know I come off as remove the flea market, remove the flea market. I do think there is an element of actually, if you look at this game in 5 years' time, there are divergent paths here where they keep it, they try, and eventually they fail and they go, there's nothing we can do, or it's just going to exist in whatever state it's at that point forever, versus a world where, I mean, I think I said in my most recent video, I think I'm coming. I think I might be against the idea of them removing the flea market, but they need to really strip it back. Something drastic needs to change. I'm not happy with just like found in raid or should we just make it so you know what I mean? I think they need to make it so that certain things, like I'm listing this SKS. Prapper looks at it and goes, "Hang on a minute, you're selling an SKS for 20k or like listen that's a bad example because that ends up being well no actually that is right because it's undercutting him, isn't it? So
Yeah.
and he looks at it and goes what do you think you're doing? Well, I'm not selling to you then. It's something like that. It's an idea. I think something like that would be good.
Losing trader rep or something based on undercutting.
Yeah,
Well, let you turn up in raid, and then
absolutely.
like a bunch of Prapple's boys just turn up and just
Yeah.
like beat the crap out of you with baseball bats, and you're just like, oh god, I'll never sell an
Five
SKS in the flea again, Prapple. I'm sorry.
I
five
had the idea
tequilas show up.
producing a quest for it as well. So you could actually explain this away by at some point in the progression, Prapper or Skier or someone says, people have been undercutting me in the market. Go and teach them a lesson. And it's like the quest is just kill 3 PMCs or something. But the lore behind the quest explains this is why you can't undercut the trader on the flea market.
That'd be kind of interesting, and giving you the opportunity to do it, but also there being some kind of punishment. Like maybe that's like could be interesting. I don't know. That could be interesting, and because you'd inadvertently do it as well. Sometimes you'd be like, "Oh crap, I forgot that he sells this one," or whatever, and
Yeah,
then like, then you get a message from like Skier in 3 days' time, just being like, "Oi, bud, you best stop, or I'm going to set my boys on you."
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That'd be kind of cool. I can't like that actually. I quite like that. It was then it's not risk free to just do stuff on the flea.
Exactly. Make it hurt in raid to do
Yeah,
stuff on the flea.
yeah, indeed. I
I,
quite
I
like
still
that.
think I still think that the getting delivered by a scav solves some of the problems for now.
Yeah, you kind of
I'd like
distance
to
like the
see it
transaction.
tried. Exactly.
Mm, mm.
One final
It could
thing we didn't
potentially
get to
work.
touch on is Lighthouse is coming in a couple of
Yeah.
months probably, and then it's supposed to have 2 scav bosses. One's supposed to confirmed as a sniper, and then there's supposed to be an in-raid trader,
Yep.
which I'm really excited for that, and I can't wait to see how that turns out. I just watched Nice Guy's video on it, and he's sort of thinking that based off the timeline of Lighthouse and Streets is supposed to have like the tank, and there's supposed to be RPGs and mines and all these things, that trader might end up selling those things, but because they're so good and so powerful, you have to go and raid, buy it, take it out. So
That would kind of make
I'm
sense.
excited.
It kind of then
Yes.
again, it's the player-driven storyline stuff that we're talking like. Oh, you want to take out the tank? Well, you're gonna have to go to this raid first and go and do this thing where you can't
Yes.
buy it on the flea. You
Yeah.
have to go to this guy, and then you have to take it out, and then you have to go to another raid, and it kind of like incentivizes you to make your own quests, and that's kind of where the end
Yeah.
game content lies. Really, allowing players to do their own thing. That sounds cool. I haven't actually watched Nice Guy's video yet. I'm excited to.
Strange thing
Yeah.
about that is you have to kill his guard to get to him. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I was a trader and I had a guard and you killed my guard, I ain't trading to you.
Well, maybe you might get shot at by him, but maybe you can't kill him. Maybe you have to maybe you have to stealth in. Who
You have
knows?
to stealth up to him and go, sell me things.
Yeah,
And that's it. Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm waiting to hear more on that one. It seems a
yeah.
bit
For sure.
strange.
For sure.
Seems like a
Cool.
mechanic they thought up and then thought, oh, let's just put this in because it sounds cool, without really giving too much of a thought about it. But I don't know. We'll see how it pans out.
We'll see.
I'm sure they can create some lore to bridge the gap there. As I've seen worse video game plots before.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Anything else, guys, before we wrap it up?
No, I think that's it. I'm
so.
gonna have to wrap it up. We've done a long one, but it's been great. We've had a lot to talk about, obviously, with the new wipe. So it's
Yeah, for sure.
it's good to get all our thoughts down. No, I think that's good. I'm happy.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show, Gaza. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. It's been
Yeah,
it's been fun. I knew we'd have a lot to talk about and dig into. I was
Absolutely.
looking forward to this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been good, man. So yeah, thanks for joining us. It's been a good one. I know it's been a while coming, but yeah, nice timing and good discussions as usual with our guests.
I look forward to coming back on again in the future.
Keep the messages coming in, guys, and I've been scrolling through them. Anchor.fm/ScavTalk/message. We'll probably get to those next week. I'll have to send those to you, Giga, and they've been really good, really interesting. And as always, thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll catch you next week.
See you later.
Cheerio.